studying, let me back up. I'm a trained AIDS hospice worker. I worked with Mother Teresa's Missionaries of Charity here in New York City, and I did a come and see because I thought, maybe I should join. And I lived the life of a missionary charity, for about a month. And then I worked in Calcutta. And you're looking at the only person on the planet who accidentally high-fived Mother Teresa because she was trying to put a blessing on my head. So it's not one of my more, glorious moments, I have to say. By the way, I want to say thank you to the Mayor Wilkinson, Vicar Diamond, Mark Diamond, and my friends, Paul Richards and Allison, his wife, Gifford, right? Allison Gifford,
yes,
who I love. I didn't want to mess up Allison's name because I love them both very much and I miss them, and I love the people of Lynn. So what happened was I thought I should study more and I should read more, and I was always interested in that Mother Teresa had a dark night of the soul. And mind you, if I walk by a church right now, I'd probably spontaneously burst into flames because I haven't been, the best Christian. But, so then I came across Julian Norwich, and Julian of Norwich changed my life. Her revelation of divine love is just totally common sense. And I wondered why across Julian's doorstep came this person, Margery Kempe. And the more I read about Margery, the more I fell in love with the story, and the more I wanted to know, the more I wanted to read. And I'm not an expert. I'm not a historian at all. I'm just a journalist here in New York City. I've been doing journalism since 1986. I've been a reporter at the Wall Street Journal, an editor at Forbes magazine, and 2 other magazines, and now I'm on television on Fox Business. And so it's just interesting because I'm an out gay independent on a network that, arguably a lot of people would be very mad at me out in places like in East Hampton or whatever. But let me get back to Margery. So what really struck me about Margery was, number one, how interesting and unusually modern her story was. And then when I read her autobiography, memoirs a number of times, I thought, there's multiple stories in here. And then I started breaking up the reading and I looked to the back end of it, and it feels more like a Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. And I was riveted. I was riveted by how modern the thinking was, how much they are like us today in the sense of humor, the sense of the common sense and the humor of British people. My great grandmother's from England, my family's from right off the boat, right? Grandpa's from Glasgow, my nana's from Ireland. We're all from over there. And we still have family over there. So I just felt, for some reason, a connection to the story, and I couldn't stop reading about it. I just fell in love with the story.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think don't people expect it to be funny when they're reading it? They kind of expect, very much to be kind of dry, kind of very kind of,
right, exactly. I mean, desist with your bleeding, when I think it was one of the priests said, desist with your bleeding, goat, or one of the pilgrims said, you're so annoying, Margery, should have buried you in the middle of the harbor in a bottomless boat. I thought, this is really funny. And it's real, it's human too. And then I thought through it, and I thought, looking at this story, and I'm reading Margery, and she's so interesting to me because she's fascinating. She's this brave, unusual person. She paid for standing out, right? She had this idiosyncratic vocation as a married woman of God in the world. No, not an anchoress, no wall, no house of stone that one priest said she should be immured in. And, she traveled widely throughout England and continental Europe, venturing as far as Jerusalem. I thought, I'm watching and I'm reading her face down these hostile crowds, these predatory clerics, these intolerant English warlords and bishop, but she still stayed true to the intimate religious experience she was convinced were gifts from God. And, I was raised Catholic, I became Episcopalian, and now I'm coming back more to the Catholic faith because, and I understand Margery as a Catholic, right? So that when I looked at her and tried to understand who she was in her time, more and more, it's like an onion. You see more, an artichoke, you can see more and more of the story coming out. And to me, it's riveting. And she gave us a gift, right? Nobody else is, to my mind. And I've read about 150 books and works about Margery since. I still read about her. It's really a treasure chest. Not the victims. And what strikes me about this is that the Catholic Church has a patron saint for taxi drivers, earaches, headaches, for drinking beer, and for ice skating. It has no patron saint of gossip victims. And I thought that's really striking. I mean, Jesus was basically killed by gossip, right? He was attacked by gossipers. And Margery said in her book, and it stands out to me, she said, I want to be slain daily by gossip. I want to be crucified by gossip to make her closer in the mystical presence of Christ. So I thought, this is really interesting because we need a patron saint of gossip victims. I mean, I think the Catholic Church arguably needs it because, I mean, let me back up. Gossip is a big industry, right? It drives TV ratings. You see here in the States, Entertainment Tonight, Access Hollywood, TMZ, The Insider, E! News, The Real Housewives of wherever. You know, and one time the New York Times said the gossip industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's like $3 billion to $5 billion. That would make it a Fortune 500 company. But I think, to me, it's not just that gossip is as intellectually satisfying as eating cheese doodles. It becomes poisonous and toxic to the soul. It becomes poisonous and toxic and destructive to the target, Jesus, Margery, whoever else is the target, and also the person who's doing it. It's wrong. This lacerating, backbiting, ankle-biting gossip that Margery endured prevails to this day. And to me, in the computerized, alienating world of Twitter and social media, we have this kind of virtual lynch mob, you know, on the internet. And I think it needs to stop. And you know, so to me, Margery is, I think she's saying, you see my life as gossip, as how slanderous and malicious gossip can be. And, you know, it's human, right? And that's why Margery's story, again, is human to me. It's, you know, she walked about in white, right? A mother of 14, looking like a street nun. Just me as a journalist reading it, as a reporter. You know, she set herself up to be gossiped about on purpose. And I feel like that we don't pay enough attention to how truly destructive gossip is to everyone around us. I mean, and it's human too. I mean, if you're hurt by somebody, you want to balance it out and take that person down, right? And so you gossip about them. I mean, I've been the target of gossip. I've engaged in it, and I know when I'm doing it. And you know when the other person is doing it, right? And you know why they're doing it. Instinctively, you know what they're doing. So why do it? You don't need to do it. And what happens is when you gossip, you get trapped in this lower dimension of reality. That's like a prison, a cul-de-sac of the world. It's a lower dimension. But what Jesus and Margery, I think, is saying, stop gossiping. She also said stop swearing, which is striking during the Peasants' Revolt and Black Death and poll taxes. That's a tall order. But anyway, when you stop gossiping, you do get, Jesus will give you a window of another world, a perception of the world, your 30,000-foot perspective. And it's a way to peace. And it's a way to kindness. I mean, humility and no gossiping is a way, and compassion and kindness are a way to peace. And I think that's what, I think in her later years, Margery achieved a level of peace and a level of wisdom to the point where she was, I think, looked up to by the people of Lynn in her later years. There is a tremendous support for Margery in England. You know, you see it at Oxford and Cambridge and Lynn, in the universities. Here in the States, I was reading the Financial Times, and I think it was around when King Charles was coronated. The FT said there's something about Americans who become so besotted with England. But, you know, but I think separate from that, I mean, Americans love everything about England. But with this story, I think in the States, we continue to talk about it, where there are meetings about Margery, there's conferences about Margery, there's seminars about Margery. And there's a tendency sometimes to look at, and Margery is a Christian figure, right? To put her in this kind of dry, arid, denatured, kind of almost a Baroque space in the Christian tradition. But if you look at her as a human being and what she achieved and her heroism and her courage and bravery, she's striking. She deserves to be named a patron saint of whatever it would be. I think it should be gossip victims.